Collective Awakening podcast,
sharing truth and knowledge in this time of conscious awakening
with Chris and Stephen. Hello friends, and we're live once again here at the Purple Mountain for the Collective Awakening podcast. Chris and Stephen, and we'll join you tonight. Welcome everyone, whether you're listening to us live or you're listening to us a little bit later on. And we're going to talk, have a little bit of a chat about spiritual matters and healing as well, healing journeys. We're going to be sharing our experience in hope that some of this talk, if not all of it, will resonate with you in some way and perhaps assist you on your journey. So what I'm going to do is tonight, we're going to hand over to Stephen. He's normally sat quietly for the first 10 minutes or so, but tonight he's going to start off because at the Purple Mountain, as most people know, Stephen he leads a lot of our healing treatments and a lot of our healing philosophies that are put in place. So he's going to share some of our guiding principles with our Mahana healing. So Stephen, it's all yours.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for that wonderful introductory. Yeah, I normally sit back and observe. However, today I'm going to lead the discussion a little bit today. And really, when we talk about principles of healing or any forms of healing, I found that over the years, it's okay to sit there, read a book and talk about stuff. But a little bit with our last night's chat, Chris, when we talked about living the practice, and we can almost use those teachings really, years ago, spirit said to us, this is how you can heal your body. If you don't smoke, you don't drink, if you eat healthy diet. They gave us all this knowledge, wonderful knowledge. If we don't use it and adopt it, we don't understand it. So from a healthcare profession, from a holistic therapist, a nutritionist, dietitian, we have to practice what we preach. We have to come from not a higher perspective, but from an experience perspective, so that we can talk from experience. And a lot of our teachings, isn't it, Chris, that over the years has been about that. One of the reasons why we've all come back to this earth, not only are we here to create and use energy as part of that creation or creative force, we are also here to experience a physical life and to really understand the basic, simple teachings, the principles of healing. And I found that in my own personal experience over the years is that a lot of people complicate the basic teachings of self-healing practices, highfalutin knowledge that can often be confusing for the reader, can be very, very confusing for people. And I found that over the years, through my own experience, through my own training and my own learning, we try to incorporate simple spiritual truths, simple spiritual teachings, the principles of life. That, yes, we are moving away from having to go to the doctor, going to the nurse, going to the guru. We're leaning towards more about trusting self. And when we take personal responsibility for our well-being, we're starting to look within. And I think that's really, really important. Anybody listening to this podcast is that we are, through this collective awakening, we've talked to amazing people. And I find that when we search for answers, the answers will always come when we look inwardly, when we look within the heart, within our own wisdom, and within our own sacred physical bodies. And when we find that stillness and when we surrender, when we really learn to surrender and let go of that control, we allow the physical body to heal itself very, very naturally. There's basic treatments, things like intermittent fasting. And that's what really happens with one of the most important principles of healing is the importance of sleep. Now, the importance of sleep ultimately, really, in my personal opinion, is slowing down the nervous system, slowing down the digestive system, the engine of the physical body, and allowing the body to really heal itself. And that's why you find that people that have a lot of sleeping issues have a lot of health issues as well. And that if you could have what I call good night's sleep. And again, something that we teach at the Perfect Man, everybody's different. We're not saying that 8 hours, 10 hours is right for everybody, because everybody's different. I know some people can function with just 5 hours sleep, but if you are able to go through that, what we call REM sleep, that deep sleep, that really allows that your physical body to heal itself, for me, that is one way, one simple free tool you can use to heal the body. So it's all right sitting there and having acupuncture and Cambo and some amazing, phenomenal holistic treatments out there. A lot that we do here at the Purple Mountain, but we often say to clients, one of the most important questions: do you sleep properly? How much sleep do you have? What's your thoughts on the sleep side, Chris? How much sleep do you have?
Well, I would say I'm quite fortunate. I tend to sleep well. I probably stay up a little bit later sometimes than I should do. I do find those hours before midnight can be quite valuable, but when I do go to bed, I don't have a problem sleeping. 9 times out of 10, I sleep, if not all the way through. But I do feel sleep's important. And what I want to mention, Stephen, is one of our favourite words, which is siestas as well, which
Oh yes,
which
definitely.
which I find vital. I would sooner. I mean, myself and Stephen both do a lot during the day and in the evening as well. Sometimes can be late into the evening. So getting that sleep, even if it's like half an hour, 15 minutes, half an hour in the afternoon, a quick nap, I find them really beneficial. I always have, even in other parts of my working life. So I feel sleep is really important. And one of the biggest detriments to sleep now, and it's something we all can slip into, is devices in the bedroom, televisions, mobile phones,
Yeah,
iPads,
absolutely. Yeah,
and not only what you're reading or you're watching, but also the light that emits from them that is telling your brain that it's daytime, it's not time to go to sleep. So something I did, not always done it, but years ago, about maybe 6 years ago, I got rid of my TV out my bedroom, and I found that's really good because I try and treat that room now like a place of it's a place of rest. So when I'm going there, there's nothing in my bedroom that's going to distract me. No lighting that's bright. It's all settled. Salt lamps are very good for bedrooms as well, by the way. If you haven't got a salt lamp, invest in one. They're great, especially if you struggle with sleep or you have breathing difficulties as well, which can keep people up. Totally understand that one. But I try my best to treat my bedroom that way, and I can slip into using my mobile phone. Of course, I can if I don't sleep or I'm listening to something late at night. But ideally, keeping those devices completely out of the bedroom is ideal,
yeah,
especially if you're struggling with sleep. And the other thing I want to mention before I hand back over to you, Stephen, is also what we drink as well. So anybody who drinks teas and coffees as well, it was advised to us from Spirit quite a while ago now that if you are a coffee drinker, then and if you struggle with sleep, you really shouldn't be drinking any coffee after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. No later than that. And even what I learned is sort of over the years as well, being cautious with some herbal teas that are caffeinated as well. You know, having them late at night can keep you up. So the hours before you go to bed, I feel are very important. What you do, you sort of gently
mm,
settling yourself down. And even if you like watching movies or TV, what you're watching before you go to bed as well, because that can bring keep a lot of information in your head. So I think the word that I'm looking for when I'm talking about all these things is getting a routine. I feel that's important. A routine that works for you.
yeah, absolutely. And anybody's that is listening and is struggling with any kind of sleep issues, which I find probably at least 40 to 50% of people that I meet on my journey have some kind of sleep issues. And on a personal experience here, the only thing that sort of assists me in my sleeping issues, or if I do have sleeping problems, is an evening meditation. I'll meditate at least half an hour, and really I find, and this is a really good piece of advice that I learned a long time ago, is that if anybody's got sleeping issues, that sleeping issues is stemmed from something. That could be 10 years ago, 5 months ago, 20 years ago. And we call this track and trace, track and research. So as therapists, as individual people, ask yourself, what was going on in my life when I began my sleep problems? And often it is emotions and it is the mind, which in when I tracked and traced with me, when I've done inner research, when I look within, that because I'm so in the mind sometimes, by meditating helps me calm the mind, opens the heart, and that helps me go into a deep sleep. And I've been meditating religiously every single night, sometimes only for 5 minutes, sometimes for an hour, depends what I've been doing at night. And that will help calm my mind. And I think a lot of things that Chris mentioned, like the TV, like the television screen, like watching a movie at night, anything that was going to activate the mind, even little things like the type of pictures and paintings that you've got in your room, anything that could be quite religious or anything that can be quite out there can activate the mind as well. So remember, your sanctuary, your bedroom is important. So let's talk about, just very quickly, the importance of
Could I
water.
just before we move on, Stephen, I just feel something would be quite interesting to add in for anybody who's listening is on the spirit side of things, what happens to us spiritually when our body's sleeping at night. Just a little bit of information.
Just, well, it depends how deep your spirit. We all know that we are a soul, a spirit within a physical body. I'm talking in simple terms here. So when we sleep, the mind, just imagine the mind, and the Chinese call it Shen. So the Shen, the spirit, is in the mind during the day, and what we want is the spirit of the mind to like a light bulb, switch off, go to the heart, and then we can then go as the body heal itself, because remember, the spirit is has too much interference with the body. How many of us can sit there and allow the body to rest? Majority of us can't. So I think in the biological mechanism, the earth has created the physical body so that the spirit can leave the physical body for a short time, go to the astral realms, so that the body can heal itself and repair itself during sleep time. And that as we go on to the astral realms, that's where the dreams and the astral memories come in, as through what we call the umbilical cord. Obviously, we don't want to go too deep on that. So yeah, and it depends on how deep you sleep. Again, as well, depends on what kind of work you do on the astral. I don't know if I've sort of explained myself there properly, there, Chris.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of an overview for anybody listening, just to keep the balance. As we're talking about physical things, it's good to talk about the spirit side that some people will experience. For example, where they wake up certain points of the night and they have memories of somewhere they've been. Also, I know a lot of people who struggle to sleep when there's things like full moons or retrogrades, and just bringing that in as well as. That we have an understanding of that also, as well as the physical. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the importance of water. Now, I do sound like a broken record sometimes, because it's the very first thing that I do ask anybody: how much water you drink. And you can tell how much water somebody drinks. I do a lot of massage, and as soon as I put my hand on somebody's skin, I can tell. And a lot of people say, well, yeah, I do drink a lot of water because I have 15 teas and 15 coffees a day. Well, just to give you a statistic, with every cup of coffee, with every cup of tea that you have, you can minus 2 cups of water. Caffeine actually, though, gives you a boost of energy, actually takes away 2 lots of energy. With every energy that you get from coffee or tea, caffeine takes away 2 lots of energy. So really, we talk about not fizzy pop here, we talk about pure water. Now, obviously, spring water or mineral water is the best kind of water that you can drink, minus the plastic bottles. if you can, glass bottles, alkaline water. Also, if you've got an alkaline filter machine, which filters the water. We've got steam machines, which boil the water, steam it, and gets rid of all the impurities. So there are lots and lots of ways we can encourage cleaning. And I know there's a lot of fear out there in there, Chris, with tap water and with the 600 odd chemicals that is within our water, half of which have not been published, which I question why, and not being controversial there, is very simply 2 to 3 liters of water per person every day. Your kidneys need at least 1 to 2 cups of water every day to filter the blood and filter all the rubbish within your blood and the food that you eat. So that's just 1 cup of water. And remember, what you're drinking today, you're drinking for tomorrow already. So if you dehydrated today, most likely you didn't drink enough water yesterday. So everything has a knock-on effect.
Yeah, and also
if that makes sense.
All we're talking about with filtering water, even in the simplest way that actually costs nothing, a very simple thing you can do if you've got a jug, just pour your water from the tap into the jug first and let it sit. And by doing that, quite a bit of the rubbish that's in it evaporates. So actually having water that's sat a while is actually better. I think the thoughts of us are that it's fresh coming from the tap when it isn't. It's even in its simplest way. Yeah.
Well, you just did a bit of an experiment there. Has anybody had left a glass of water and see the bubbles, in the morning or during the night? You've left the tap water glass and you see all the bubbles. Now that's chlorine evaporating from your glass. That's a chemical evaporating from your glass of water, the little bubbles. So you can smell that. You can smell that if you put empty the glass of water and turn it upside down, and then leave it for about half an hour and raise it up, and you can smell the chlorine. You can smell the chemicals in the water, and that's what your body has to filter.
Very important.
Very, very, very important. So let's have a look at a next principle for life is the importance of breath. Now, the importance of breath and the importance of air. Now, we breathe not through our lungs, though we use the lungs to pump oxygen around the body. We actually use other muscles, what we call abdominal muscles, to breathe. So we breathe through our stomachs. Okay, we breathe through it. And there's lots of breathing techniques. A lot of us don't breathe properly. Good techniques, in through the nose, out through the mouth. But let's have a look at the home, Chris, because there's lots of little tips and advisement. Now, one of them is carpets being one of the worst things for your lungs, for your breath. Now, if it was up to me, if I was a multi-millionaire, I would have marble floor throughout my whole house. But wooden floorings are also much better, because could you imagine how much dust? Now, as soon as you turn the radiators on, as soon as you turn the heating on, all that dust goes straight into the air and we breathe that in. Having windows open during the day, letting the fresh air in, and often when we turn the heating on, can have a detriment to any sort of problems with the lungs or through our nose, through our mouth, particularly moving away from summer into autumn and winter when the temperatures change. And that greatly affects our breathing. And that's why I think there is a lot of more eco-friendly boilers being created that are much more sustainable for the house and the circulation of air. So we want a clean circulation of air into the home. I know that you use sometimes, Chris, don't you use what are those machines called that pull out some of that stuff in the air? Yeah, and what's the benefits of that?
I use mine to remove excess moisture. So if you have a room that's particularly, I don't know what the word is, like over moist, then it can assist with that. But you can also get other filters that just filter the air as well. So if you have troubles with your breathing, or you're susceptible to allergies that can assist with that. But like Stephen said, you can't beat. I mean, the first thing I do, no matter what time of year it is, when I'm up in the morning, is I open the window, open the bedroom window, and get some fresh air in. That's the best thing, I would say. And also it's something. I mean, we're by the seaside here in Fleetwood, and it's something my granddad always used to say to me if I was feeling a bit unwell. It's like, get yourself on the beach, get some fresh air in your lungs, and I find that pretty much served me well over the years as well. Yeah.
Wow, there is a lot of fantastic research out there now, Chris, because it's actually the salt that is within the sea air that has a massive positive effect to our lungs and our breath. So the seaside, just by walking and just by being outside, opening the windows and allowing that fresh air in, helps our breath. And by doing breath work, has a positive effect on not only your mind. You do feel absolutely amazing, because I say to people that struggle with any sort of mental health issues or depression or anxiety, breath work is absolutely amazing tool that can help bring such clarity and calmness. I know sometimes when I do sort of rigorous breath work, I feel very lightheaded. So that's the fresh oxygen that is coming to the brain. And often we will talk about this, won't we, the week or the other day, Chris, about how the brain is often an organ that is often too often ignored. They talk about the heart, the lungs, the liver, and they forget the importance of protecting the brain. I mean, statistically, more people having Alzheimer's and dementia, and there's a lot of positive research there from Israel, from Ireland, and other amazing science that is proving that the lack of oxygen and the pollution of cities and towns has a negative effect on the brain. And again, it's all about what we breathe. And it makes sense, doesn't it? You know, if we're eating rubbish, that body is going to absorb that negative, those toxins and those minerals negatively. And we do that as well with the breath, don't we? It's what we breathe. If we're breathing in pollutants and heavy metals, then that the body can't cleanse itself as well as it should do. So let's have a look at the importance of rest, Chris. Now, what's the difference between rest and sleep?
Well, resting isn't sleeping, and sleeping isn't resting. But I'd say rest is more around. It's like resting your mind, switching off. And there's many different ways you can switch off. People like to go for walks, read books, watch a movie, meditate, sit in the garden, all these lots and lots of things. But it's basically uh, bringing yourself into a calm state, doing something you enjoy. It might be something creative, but it's basically not hard work. It's chilling, relaxing completely, which is equally as important as well.
Yeah, I can't say much more than that. And again, a lot of people do struggle with rest. Now, anybody listening, does everybody spend 30 minutes? What is 30 minutes? Do you spend 30 minutes of doing absolutely nothing? Now, I go absolutely mad. I can't sit still for 10 minutes. Now, I know you're quite similar to that as well, Chris. And for some reason, we, as in a society, we've been conditioned that we are lazy if we don't do anything. And actually, how many of us, Chris, sits there and do nothing? Just sit there and just listen to a bit of music, and not on our phones, not reading, just sitting and not doing anything. Now, I'm going to ask everybody to do that tomorrow. 15 minutes, not to do a thing. And I bet you a lot of people will struggle. I bet you a lot of people will struggle to do that.
And
So
it's
let's have.
interesting on that note when we're resting as well, because you get a lot of people question, about they wanting to connect with spirit more, with the guides, inspirers, and all that, and you'll actually find not only through meditating but taking time to rest for those who are wanting to connect that way, that it'll open the doors to spirit to just come in gently for some inspiration or connection.
Then our friend Marissa put, "I'll fall asleep." Well, if you
It's
fall
good.
asleep, yeah, if you sleep's good, because, and I would say, I don't discourage people, even when they come for sound baths or they come for healing or any kind of ceremonial work. It's the body saying, "Get out the way, spirit. Get out the mind. I need healing. The body needs healing." The body is a temple. The body speaks to us. Is we often override the body, and we talked about this yesterday, didn't we? When we talk about pain, when we have pain, it's your body saying, "Hang on here, slow down. I'm giving you pain here. What are you going to do about it?" A lot of us just take a paracetamol, take a pain medication, ignore it, and carry on. And it's the same with sleep. It's most likely your body saying, you need to shut down, close your eyes. I need to do some more healing within the body. It's where your body needs to be. And when we listen to the body, when we slow down, when we let go of the control, the body will tell us what it needs. Now, I'm not talking about when we slow down and the body says, "Chris, have a large glass of red wine," or "have a large piece of chocolate cake with double cream." That's not what we're saying. Really listening to the body, and the body speaks. Very, very simple stuff. So, Chris, shall we talk about the importance of exercise? Now, everybody gets scared to death when we talk about exercise. "No, I can't exercise. I'm not going to the gym." Now, Spirit said to us that gyms, though have very good qualities to it, I think a lot of the equipment, in my opinion, does have a detriment to the physical body. Now, the kind of exercise we're talking about is swimming, walking, and going on the bike, going hiking, yoga, tai chi, qigong, the movement of energy, if that makes sense. The physical body is not designed to do long periods of exercise. And there was a Japanese doctor, and I can't quite remember what his name was. He says your heart is a muscle. And we know that when we overexert ourselves, when we talk about the muscular system, it can be affected negatively, and the heart needs to be protected. The heart is an important organ. So, and when we over exercise and when we over exert ourselves, that affects the heart negatively, if that makes sense. I mean, you hear a lot of stories out there that people, a lot of young people, particularly jogging and running, drop dead or have a heart attack. And they do say, actually, in Chinese medicine, when we're talking about binaural clock, that actually exercise in the morning is the worst part. The best part of the day to exercise between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, or 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, is the best time to exercise. Is when the lung chi and the stomach chi is its strongest, and that's the best time to exercise, if that makes sense to everybody. So what kind of exercise do you do, Chris, and how many times a day?
I walk. I do a lot of walking. I do go out on my bike. I do cycling as much as possibly can, if weather permits. Yeah, and I find that sort of good enough for me most of the time. I do find it sort of harder in the winter. It gets more difficult in the winter as the weather changes. But then, like you say, we have options of doing things indoors. I know you mentioned gyms and some of the equipment, but also you have places, your indoor swimming pools and places like that where you can do some exercise that way. So, yeah, that's what I do mostly.
Yeah, and also I just want to mention as well, a lot of people associate exercise with losing weight, and they do that with when we use the word diet. I can't stand the word diet. And it's more a relationship, a positive relationship with your body. There are people out there like me that are big boned. There are people that are bigger than others. physiologically, on the biology side, we are made differently. So try not to, if you trying to get into exercise, get into the mindset of losing weight, because then there's an expectation. Try to get into exercise as a way of helping you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, building a better relationship by creating a stronger core energy. That's all that is about, is creating a bit of a stronger core energy. A lot of people associate with exercise with muscular growth or increase. And for me, that's wrong. So there's a toxic side to exercise. And really, it's all about a positive relationship between you and your physical body, which leads me now, we've not far off finished for our principles of healing, is food, our relationship with food. Now, something that we try to promote is a plant-based diet. Again, me using the word diet is, again, creating a positive relationship between you and food. And really, as you work on yourself, try to stay away from what we call lower vibrational foods, things like alcohol, things like chocolate. Though pure chocolate is good for you, cacao, sugars, saturated fats, sugars, nearly 90% of meats have a detriment, a negative detriment to the physical body. There's lots and lots of research out there, fantastic research out there. So anybody that wants to look at self-healing, food's probably one of the biggest things, and probably the hardest things, me personally, I had to overcome, because I come from a culture, I'm half German, so I come from a culture that is very, very heavily based on meat, and also very heavily based on sugars, cake in the afternoon, ice cream in the afternoon, bread, meat. So I was conditioned at a very early age of very, very naughty foods. And as I sort of began my spiritual awakening, I began leaning towards more higher vibrational foods. Now, that didn't happen overnight, and I'm still struggling now. It's taken nearly, I think, about 5 years to come from where I was to where I'm now. And I try even going shopping. I tell you, going shopping is one of the hardest things, Chris, isn't it? Because you get tempted. Every aisle is trying to say, to eat me, take me. And it is horrendous sometimes when you going shopping, when you're coming in and your mindset is, I'm going to have some fruit, nice vegetables, a nice vegetable bake, and you come out with chocolate and sweets and a bottle of wine. And it is horrendous. It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, temptation everywhere. But if you don't get it in, then you're not tempted as much. So what you buy in is really important.
Yeah, and I think the online shopping is very good as well, because then you aren't tempted then to go on every aisle. You just click and it gets delivered. But yeah, so it's plant-based. I mean, another thing, what have you moved away from, Chris, from where you were maybe
Well, I
5
know you
years
talked
ago?
about meat, but when I found it quite beneficial moving away from dairy. I used to eat a lot of cheese, things like that. And what I do now is, because I don't believe in labels. I think when we label something, when we say we're vegetarian, we don't do this, we don't do that, um, instantly what you're doing is you're putting a pressure on yourself. And for my opinion, you're opening yourself up to others having a bit of a pop at you as well. So it's best just to get on with it and not to put a label on it. So yeah, I stopped with. I don't have cow's milk. I don't have cheese. I don't buy it in. But if I'm out and about, I might have a little bit, but nowhere near what it was. And I found that really beneficial the last 3 years or so. Getting rid of that, yeah.
Yeah, and really, everybody that's listening, your own body. Listen to your body. You know what's right and what's wrong. You can't say, well, the way we eat is not the way you eat. Your stomach bacteria, there's a lot of research out there that tells you that your stomach, the bacteria in your stomach, really determines what kind of food's good for your digestive system. And this is why everybody's
Thing to
different.
mention is that um, you know, when Stephen talks about the relationship with food, this is really important. We talked about it the other night. Is if you do have a bit of a slip and you found, oh, I've eaten something and I've not feel good, my body doesn't feel good. Getting up in the morning and having like 15 green teas because you had a Chinese takeaway the night before isn't going to be the solution either. So it's more, I find it more healthy instead of telling yourself off, which can be equally as detrimental as the food, is actually to just observe your pattern and go, all right, well, I've done that. And why did I go to that food at that time? And looking at what works right for you, because there's no set plan for anyone. I don't believe it's, we're all individuals, we've all got uh, bodies and eating habits that are individuals to how our body's working. Um, so what I want to say is, if anybody out there is trying to reduce or eliminate anything from what they eat or drink, that if you do find yourself having a bit of a bad day or couple of days, don't immediately go for a miracle solution, which doesn't exist anyway. Just observe the pattern and learn the lesson, and know that every experience like that one has come up just to teach you something. We don't always get everything right.
It's a journey, isn't it? Everything is a journey.
Yeah.
Everything is a journey. So let's have a look on sunshine. The importance of sunlight is, there's again, unfortunate, there is a lot of fear in the media. Don't go in the sunshine. And actually, I'm going to be very controversial here. Sunshine does not give you skin cancer. It's your own physical body. It is your own intake of toxins and heavy metals that are stored in your skin that causes the fragmentations of cancer cells. Sun is healthy. Obviously, we're going to talk about our last point, which is temperance, which is everything in moderation, which we'll talk about our last thing, is that, in my opinion, everybody should spend at least an hour every day. And really, when we talk about some of the principles, go out for a walk. That's your exercise. That's part of your breathing. Do your breath work. And then in that half an hour, you get your sunlight as well. Even in the winter, even though there's no sun, you still get the vitamin D and the sun rays. So you have to have some skin exposure to your skin. So sunshine being an integral part. I know how I feel. I feel amazing when I'm in the sun. I feel alive and invigorated. My nails are strong. My hair is strong. So we all know how it feels when we go on holiday, when we sit on the beach and we feel amazing. So how do you feel, Chris, when you're in the sunshine? Do you like the sun?
I feel great. I'm a proper sun worshipper. I think it's energizing.
Yeah. Now, our last principle for healing is what we call temperance. And basically what we mean there is everything in moderation. So when you're listening to us, our job when we do these podcasts is to inspire you and to question, oh, well, I don't do those lot of things, but I do that one. I do drink plenty of water. I do eat a healthy balance. All we expect is everybody to do their best, but everything in moderation. Don't go from one extreme. And I know Chris can talk about experience here and some of the people that have been involved with us. And I fell prey to this as well, that I go from 0 to intense, where I go from not eating a pretty all right diet to being so intense and I'm losing so much weight. And that's not good for the body either. That can have a shock. That could be stressful for the body. So instead of going for a 30-mile run to exercise every week, just spread it out. Enjoy the journey. Everything in moderations. And what do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think with anything, putting pressure on yourself is going to be very unhealthy. And also, we talked the other night, there's a lot of healing tools out there, ranging from breath work that we mentioned, meditation, crystals. There's also plant medicine work, Kambo. But these tools, or these medicines or spiritual tools for me, aren't there as miracle cures. There's nothing that I've experienced that is this miracle. The answers do lie within you. but I believe all the things I've mentioned before can assist. So, for example, if you have poor eating habits, if you're struggling to get rid of something out of your diet that really is making you feel quite unwell or sluggish all the time, it's there's got to be a willingness to really shift and change that. And I feel it comes from observing yourself and not being too hard on yourself.
Yeah,
So not
definitely.
judging yourself, but just looking at things and saying, right, well, why am I going to that food? And you mentioned it earlier, Stephen. What emotion was I feeling? Was I feeling quite down when I'm going to that sort of thing? And that helps you. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful people who specialise in working with people one to one with the relationship with food. That's how big it is, and it can even come from childhood stuff and all sorts. But my biggest advice is not to go too hard on yourself. And something I learned uh, a few years ago is every change has to be natural. So
Yeah.
it's no good doing something because we're saying so, or because you read it in a book. It has to be a natural change. A good friend of ours, Rick Corns, when he was doing a talk with us many years ago, when we started these talks, uh, you've got to do the work. It's no good if you wanted to get into bodybuilding, for example, and you buy the book. It isn't going to give you muscles, the book. You've got to do
Yeah.
the work yourself. And that's a very good philosophy. It's most things start with yourself. And I do feel the good thing with food is if there's something that you struggle to really remove out your diet that you'd like to, a very simple way is not to have it in the house is a good start, because 9 out of 10 people, if it's there, we're going to eat it. We're given to temptation, and yeah, and again, I can't say it enough times. Don't be too hard on yourself because that can equally, if not be more, detrimental to your health. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there is some of the principles of healing, Chris. Now, as we finish off, is there anything that you would like to say to anybody that's listening? Any advisement, any guidance, any inspiration
Well,
that you want to share?
what comes to me at the moment is, and this goes for any part of the spiritual movement and life journey, um, is it doesn't matter if it's a crawl, a walk, a run, as long as you've got a willingness in whatever you're doing, you're going to get there 100%. But there always has to be a willingness. There isn't anything that's going to come knocking on your door. I'm going to say, here's the solution. And here you go. It starts with you. And I feel that's the important message. That's for my thoughts are a lot of what we're experiencing in this world right now is to remind us that we're powerful creators. We're our own script writers. So we write our script really, and we talk about all these foods and that, but we have a choice. We have the power of choice. Um, so if you wanted to make change, I, I always say bring it in slowly. Do it manageable in a manageable way. That's don't overwhelm yourself. Don't, for example, if you're thinking about starting meditation, don't say, "Well, I'm going to meditate for an hour every day." Start off 10 minutes, maybe once a week, and then start twice a week, and do it at your pace, because at least it's consistent and moving forward. And if you do find yourself slipping out of routine, like I said, just observe it sensibly and don't be too hard on yourself. Don't get into self punishment because that's not good either.
Absolutely. And my little advisement there, anybody listening, is remember you're not on your own on your journey. And if you're struggling, there's a lot of like-minded people. There's lots of amazing platforms out there, and there's lots of healing centers opening all around the country, all around the world. Lots of online content, lots of free Zoom connections, lots of things out there that's available to connect with like-minded people. And I think this is what's all this a collective awakening podcast is all about, is to there's a lot of us out there that are on that same journey. And many years ago we thought we're very, very small community, and actually there's many of us out there in the world, from all around the world, every country. There's people doing the work, and make that connection. Seek that help, seek that guidance. But your greatest thing anybody can do is to look within. Everybody's looking outwardly to find ways to make you feel better, to find joy, to find happiness. And you can only find that by looking within. A lot of things superficial. A lot of things are superficial. So look within. And again, very much what Chris said, when you do look within, don't be too hard on yourself. And I've often said, when we do look in that mirror, when we do look within, and when we look that mirror within us, it just can sometimes make us feel very, very uncomfortable. It has made me feel uncomfortable. And I then that shame, that guilt and shame feeling sort of washes over me. But I quickly remember, you know what? All I was doing is my best. And I always think, well, tomorrow I'm going to wake up, I'm going to try harder tomorrow. And you know what? I've had a bit of a bad day. Who cares? I'm not going to be judged. I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to be too hard on myself. And I'm struggling. I'm going to ask my pal Chris, can you help me? Or my friend Irene, can you help me on this matter? And that's what this is all about, making friends, making connections, and know that you're not on your own. So I'd like to thank everybody for an amazing podcast, Chris. Amazing opportunity to share some of our wisdom and knowledge. So I'm going to pass on back to Chris.
Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. And we'll be speaking to you really soon. Whatever you're doing, we hope you're well. And lots of love from us here at the Purple Mountain till we speak again. Thank you for watching the Collective Awakening podcast. For more information on the Purple Mountain Spiritual and Wellbeing Centre, you can visit our website at thepurplemountain.co.uk, and don't forget to click and subscribe.